Welcome to Mimir Library, where timeless stories find their voice. This is Chapter 10 of Waves Between Us by Amir Honarmand. Enjoy!
The next day, Alara arrived with arms full of market bags, the morning air still cool against her skin. Hazy golden light filtered through the cafe windows, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. The scent of fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, and herbs spilled from her bags, a promise of the day's specials. Liam looked up from his notebook as she entered. His smile was cautious, his blue eyes searching her face for any sign of warmth. "Morning," he said, rising slightly from his chair. "Need a hand with those?" "I'm good, thank you." Her voice was polite but distant, the words creating an invisible barrier between them. She moved past him, the market bags rustling against her legs. In the kitchen, Alara unpacked methodically, arranging glossy eggplants and plump tomatoes in neat rows. Her movements were precise, focused, a choreographed routine that required no thought, allowing her mind to drift elsewhere. She placed the fragrant bundles of mint and basil in water, their earthy scent rising to meet her. Through the kitchen doorway, she could see Liam at his usual table. His camera sat untouched beside his coffee cup. He wasn't typing or reviewing photos, just staring out at the sea, his profile etched against the morning light, brows drawn together in thought. Celine arrived, her entrance announced by the jangling of bracelets and the faint scent of peach perfume. "You're early," Alara said, not looking up from the vegetables. "And you're hiding." Celine tied her apron with practiced efficiency. "Want me to handle the front today?" Alara nodded, grateful for the reprieve. "I'll prep in the back. We need to use these tomatoes before they over-ripen." For the next hour, she lost herself in the rhythm of chopping and mixing, the steady percussion of knife against cutting board. The kitchen was her sanctuary, predictable, controllable. Outside, she heard the first customers arrive, Celine's cheerful voice greeting them. Once, she glanced through the service window and caught Liam watching her, her expression unreadable. She ducked back into the kitchen, her chest tight with an emotion she couldn't name. The morning stretched on. Alara marched only to deliver fresh batches of gozlema or refill the coffee urns. Each time, she felt Liam's gaze following her, a tangible weight across her shoulders. During a lull between breakfast and lunch, Celine wandered into the kitchen, leaning against the doorframe. "Your photographer hasn't taken a single photo today. Just sits there staring at his coffee like it contains the secrets of the universe." Alara continued rolling out dough. "He's probably working on his article." "Without his camera? Without his notebook?" Celine raised an eyebrow. "He looks like someone stole his puppy." "Celine?" Alara warned. "Fine, fine. But you should know. He asked if you were okay. Said you seemed different today." The rolling pin paused mid-stroke. "What did you tell him?" "The truth," Celine shrugged. "That you get like this sometimes. Quiet, distant, especially before you make a decision." Her head snapped up. "I didn't say I was making any decision." "Aren't you?" Celine's voice softened. "Every time you retreat like this, you're deciding something, usually whether to let someone in or push them away." The words hit with uncomfortable precision. Before Alara could respond, Celine disappeared back to the front, leaving her alone with the half-rolled dough and her tangled thoughts. Later, as Alara emerged with a tray of fresh bread, she found Liam still at his table. His coffee sat untouched, a thin skin formed on its surface. He looked up as she passed. "What kind of decision?" he asked quietly. I stopped, momentarily confused. "Celine said you get quiet before you make decisions. I was wondering what kind." The cafe felt suddenly too warm, too small. A dry breeze fluttered the curtains, carrying the scent of salt and sun-baked stone. "I should check on the oven," she said, avoiding his question. Liam nodded, his disappointment visible but unspoken. As she turned to leave, he added, "I'll be here when you're ready to talk." In the storeroom, Alara leaned against the shelves, eyes closed. The scent of tomatoes and basil lingered on her fingers. Outside, life continued. Customers chatting, Celine laughing, waves breaking against the shore. Inside, she felt suspended between what was and what could be, between the safety of solitude and the terrifying possibility of connection. She touched her grandmother's silver necklace, drawing comfort from its familiar weight. 6 days left. 6 days until he would become another memory, another ghost to haunt her cafe. Unless... The thought remained unfinished as she pushed herself away from the shelves and returned to her work, slipping back behind the curtain that separated her from him, from decisions, from the heavy stillness of the afternoon.
The cafe emptied as the afternoon stretched on. Alara had retreated upstairs to her small apartment, claiming paperwork needed attention. In truth, she needed space. From Liam, from decisions, from the weight of 6 remaining days. Liam sat alone on the deck, his notebook open but untouched. The sea stretched before him, a vast expanse of blue that seemed to mock his uncertainty. A bee buzzed lazily around the empty glass of iron beside him, drawn to the lingering sweetness. The creak of footsteps on wood made him look up. Mete appeared, toolbox in hand, sweat darkening the collar of his faded football club t-shirt. His expression was neutral as he nodded at Liam. "Leakin' pipe in the kitchen," he explained, his voice loud but not unfriendly. "Alara around?" "Upstairs, paperwork." Mehdi grunted acknowledgement and disappeared inside. The cafe fell silent again, save for the distant sound of waves and the occasional metallic clang from the kitchen. 20 minutes later, Mehdi emerged onto the deck. Instead of leaving, he surprised Liam by setting 2 small glasses of Turkish coffee on the table and pulling out the chair opposite him. "Fix the leak," he said, sitting down. The chair squeaked under his weight. "Thought you might want some coffee." "Thanks," Liam said, closing his notebook. The coffee was thick and aromatic, steam rising in delicate curls. They sat in silence for a moment, the air between them not exactly tense but weighted with unspoken purpose. A wave crashed louder than the others, drawing both their gazes toward the shore. "How's the photo project going?" Mehta asked, his tone casual. "Good, almost finished." Liam traced the rim of his glass with his finger. "The light here is incredible." Mete nodded, taking a sip of his coffee. Condensation beaded on the outside of the glass, catching the late afternoon sunlight. "You ever think about staying in one place?" The question came suddenly, catching Liam off guard. He hesitated, the coffee halfway to his lips. "I've never really had the chance to." "Or never wanted to," Mete suggested, his gaze direct, but not unkind. The bee returned, circling our table before landing on the wooden railing nearby. The air felt suddenly thick with more than just heat. "She won't ask you to, and she'll never say she wants you to. But if you're going to leave, I want you to be honest about it, at least with yourself." Liam set his coffee down, the glass making a soft clink against the wooden table. "I don't understand." Mete leaned back, the chair squeaking again. "Did she ever tell you about Denise?" The name hung in the air between them. Liam shook his head. "German artist, came here 3 summers ago for an exhibition. He made her feel special, like he was her muse, his inspiration. For 2 months, she was happy, really happy." Liam's stomach tightened, already sensing where this was heading. Then one morning, he was gone. No goodbye, no note, just vanished. Took her weeks to stop looking for him every time the cafe door opened. The bee took flight, buzzing past their heads before disappearing over the railing. Another wave crashed against the shore. "She built this place with her hands," Mete continued. gesturing around them, every tile, every table, after him. You don't have to be him, but if you're another version of the same story, don't let her write a single line. The words landed with the weight of years of friendship, of watching someone rebuild after being broken. "I'm not him," Liam said quietly, his fingers finding the silver ring on his hand. Mette studied him, his expression softening slightly. "Then figure out who you are." He stood, the chair scraping against the deck. For the first time, Liam saw not just the protective friend, but a man who perhaps loved Alara longer than he'd admit. Mette gathered his toolbox, then paused. She deserves someone who sees this place. He gestured toward the cafe, the beach, the whole of Antalya spread before them, and sees home, not just another pretty picture. With that, he descended the steps to the beach, leaving Liam alone with his half-finished coffee and thoughts that suddenly felt too large for his chest. The condensation on his glass had formed a small pool on the table. The afternoon light caught it, turning the simple droplets into something golden and significant. For the first time, Liam truly understood the cost of not deciding, of living a life always in motion, always framing the next shot without being in the picture himself. His camera sat untouched in his bag. For once, he didn't feel the urge to capture the moment. Instead, he wanted to live in it, to feel its weight and possibility. The choice before him wasn't just about staying or going. It was about who he wanted to be. A visitor passing through beautiful moments, or someone who built them day by day alongside another.
Amber light filtered through the sheer curtains of Liam's hotel room, painting the walls in warm honey tones. Dusk settled over Antalya, softening the edges of buildings visible from his window. The distant Mediterranean glimmered like melted copper, a sight that would normally have him reaching for his camera. Tonight, his camera remained in its bag. Liam sat at the small desk, laptop open before him. His fingers scrolled through photo after photo, hundreds captured over the past week. The fan in his laptop hummed quietly, a counterpoint to the muted sounds of evening traffic floating up from the street nearby. He paused on an image of Alara. She stood behind the counter, laughing at something Selin had said, her head thrown back, flour dusting her forearm. The morning light caught in her dark hair, highlighting subtle brunette undertones he'd never noticed before. Another scroll. Alara alone at sunrise, sipping her first coffee of the day, eyes closed in momentary peace. Another. Her hands deftly crimping the edges of gosla meadow, fingers nimble and sure. Liam stopped scrolling. These weren't just photographs. They were moments of a life he'd been observing but not truly participating in. He'd captured her world perfectly, but remained outside it, lens between them. Mette's words echoed in his mind. She deserves someone who sees this place and sees home, not just another pretty picture. The small hotel fridge hummed in the corner. Outside, a car horn honked, followed by laughter. The light on the wall shifted from gold to deepening blue. He clicked away from the photos and opened his email. A draft sat waiting. Had been waiting for weeks. The subject line read, Mediterranean Visual Arts Residency Application, Liam O'Connell. He'd started it on a whim after a colleague mentioned the opportunity. 2 years in Athens, documenting Mediterranean coastal life through changing seasons, a home base, stability, everything his nomadic career had lacked. He'd never finished it, never submitted it. The deadline was tomorrow. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. The cursor blinked patiently, waiting. Liam began typing, slowly at first, then with growing certainty. The cooling tea beside him remained untouched as he filled in details, attached portfolio samples, wrote his statement of purpose. I've spent years capturing moments of connection in communities across the world while never creating lasting connections of my own. This residency offers the chance to document not just fleeting beauty, but the sustained rhythms of life in one place through all seasons. The light outside faded completely. Liam switched on the desk lamp, its glow creating a small island of illumination in the darkening room. The keys clicked steadily under his fingers. For the first time in his career, he wasn't applying for an assignment that would take him somewhere new. He was applying for something that would let him stay, put down roots, build something lasting. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a decision. And he has spent too many years avoiding both. He attached the final documents and read through everything once more. His finger hovered over the submit button. Outside, waves crashed against the shore, their sound carrying through the partially open window. Constant, reliable, enduring. He pressed submit. The confirmation appeared on screen. Application received. Thank you, Liam O'Connell. He closed the laptop and leaned back in his chair. The silver ring on his finger caught the lamplight. He turned it thoughtfully, feeling its familiar weight. His grandfather had worn it for 50 years in the same fishing village, building a life rich with stories and connections. For the first time, that didn't sound like a limitation. It sounded like possibility. Liam smiled, not with certainty, but with resolve. He didn't know if the residency would come through or if Alara would give him another chance, but he'd planted a flag instead of booking a flight. It was a beginning.
The story ends here, but the library is always open. Subscribe for more free audiobooks.